Okay. So let us move to the further. Last class already we started with the very important topic. Online students, are you there? All lazy guys? Only Soumya is responding. Others are not responding. Are you there? Are you sleeping or what? Only Soumya is responding. What are you doing? I don't know. Keep one ear mission for you, okay? Keep one ear mission. That is a better always. If you come to Hyderabad, we will arrange one medical camp for all of you. We will arrange the mission for you in your ears. Okay. So let us move to the further. 11 a.m. under the oops. So we will go for index of oops. We will open. As a part of that, already we completed this part, types of methods and all those things. And even if I open it, syntax for defining a class, syntax for defining a class in Python. This part we completed. So today we are coming to constructors we will discuss. It's a very important again. Okay. So let us move to the further about the constructor. So let us go to through the practical example. We'll start discussing that. So let us move to the further. Close this project. Go to here we are having 11 a.m. As a part of that, we already completed here. So let us take this, close this part. Now I will enter into the importance of constructors we will discuss. So first I will go for non-constructor example.py. Non-constructor example.py. I'm going to discuss. So let us, all of you, concentrate on this topic, something like this. I will discuss one of the class employee, and say pass. So as a part of that, we will take it one class object I will create. Main program I will take. So E1 is equal to employee of. E1 is equal to employee of. Content of EO is what? Content of E1 is equal to. So 34th time I am saying E1 dot underscore dict. So that is called empty. That is called empty. So it is printed empty. So now I want to place the data. How to place the data in E1? So whenever you create an object, by default, what is present? Empty. Next, how do you place the data by yourself? Tell me, how many ways are there to place the data? Hmm? How many ways? Three ways. What is the first way? By using through an object. One more is through instance method. Already I said. So by using an object, I said, how do you do? E1 dot ENO is equal to 10. E1 dot name is equal to RS. This is the way we placed the data. This is called what? Content of E1 after placing the data. After placing the data. After placing the data is equal to E1 dot. This is before placing. Before placing the data. Before placing the data. So try to come to here. Before placing the data, it is an empty. After placing the data, it is a non-empty. This procedure I don't want. This procedure I don't want. What is this procedure? First it is an empty. Later I am replacing that emptiness with non-empty content. So I don't want this double step procedure. What I am expecting, whenever an object is created, I don't want to leave my object empty. Directly I want to place the data. Directly I want to place the data. That is what I am expecting today. I don't want to make my object to be empty. This is what whenever an object is created, I want to place my own data without leaving the object empty. That is what is called constructor job today. That is what is called constructor job today. What is the job of the constructor? Constructor is also one type of method which we are going to introduce, whose purpose is to initialize the object. The word called initialize. What do you mean by initialize? Placing our own data without leaving the object empty. Placing our own data without leaving the object empty. That is the purpose of the constructor. But here what is happening? First empty, later non-empty. I don't want this procedure. One more procedure is what? Through a method. Through a method. I used to call it as what? By using an instance method. This I was already explained. E1 dot get EMP data. Get EMP data. So EMP data I will define. You know how to define the method. DEF get EMP data. Get EMP data of self. Inside of it, self dot ENO is equal to 100. Self dot self dot I'm going to take it. Self dot ename is equal to self dot ename is equal to I'm writing here RS. This is you try to print it. So before that empty, after that non-empty. So here it is an empty, here it is a non-empty. So to place my data, either I am writing through an object or through a method. So here this method is calling explicitly. If I don't call this method, it is going to contain empty only, both the places empty only. So to place my own data, I need to call one method explicitly here. That will take lot of amount of time. So first it is an empty, later it is a non-empty. Later I am going to call this method explicitly. Calling this method explicitly here, calling the method, calling the method explicitly, calling the method explicitly. So calling the method explicitly require what? A separate statement to be written. Then only this method getting executed. Then only the object data placing. So what is my requirement directly today? It is an empty. It is going to become what here? Non-empty. What is this? ENO colon 100. Next is called what? ename colon RS. Ename colon RS. This is what is the data happening. This is an empty. This is a non-empty. I don't want this double procedure. What I am expecting, whenever an object is created, I want to place my own data. To place my own data, I must go for which concept? Constructors concept I want to go for it. Online students, only Soumya I am going to talk today. Others are not responding anyhow because only Soumya I will talk and Soumya will respond. Others, punishment is I don't talk to you people. Even if you respond also, we are not going to respond. So let us move to the further. So coming to the place, here I am going to write it. Constructor example 1.py. Constructor example 1.py. So what I am going to take it now? Here I will take class EMP, employee. So what to do? I'm going to enter. So main program I'm going to write it. What is the main program here? E1 is equal to employee of. E1 is equal to employee of. This is called what? Object creation. Object creation. Whenever an object is created, generally in the previous example, object is containing empty. Now I don't want empty. I want to place my own data whenever an object is created. For that, we need to go for what? constructor. For the constructor, I'm going for taking something like this. So syntax for defining constructor. Syntax for defining constructor, I'm going to take it. So there are syntax number one. Syntax number one, I'm going to take it. DEF, the name of the constructor to be taken always by you as like this. Underscore underscore init, underscore underscore of, self, comma, that's all. I will write it. Block of statements, block of statements, I will write it. I will write it here. Block of statements performs object initialization. Object initialization, that is nothing but placing our own data. This is called first constructor, which we call it as a default constructor. We can call default constructor because it takes only self as a parameter, like a method. Self is taking, because once it is taking a self, it is having instance nature. Next is called what one more constructor I'm defining. One more constructor, syntax 2 for defining construct, syntax 2. Along with the self, we will take what? List of formal params. List of formal params, I am going to write it. List of formal parameters. We call it as parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. This is also called block of statements performs object initialization. So init here, syntax for defining constructor 2, syntax for defining constructor 1. These are the two constructors I am having. First time I am defining one constructor. Again I am printing here. Print of what? E1 dot underscore underscore dict, which is printing an empty. So empty is here. Now I want to define my own thing here. Remove the pause. First time I'm defining def underscore underscore init of something like this self I'm writing. This is known as what? Default constructor. How I know that it is a default constructor? As I said to you, default constructor, it is going to contain only self as a parameter. No more parameters are taken. We call it as a default constructor. I'm just writing one small message. I am from default constructor. I am from default constructor. I'm going to write it. So you just observe it. Object creation. What is the relation between this constructor and then object creation? By looking at this employee of, this is an object creation, makes the PVM to call default constructor, default constructor automatically. Default constructor automatically, that is implicitly. That's why whenever an object is created, first it will go to the class looking for the constructor. That constructor is not taking any parameter except self. So even address is kept into where? Self. So this is only taking self. It is printing a message called a default constructor. It indicates that constructor need not to call explicitly through an object like a method. E1 dot method name you are calling explicitly, but constructor you need not to call. Constructor will call implicitly during what creation? Object creation. Execute it. I'm getting. I am from default constructor. What is this self contains? If you want, I will write it. ID, I will write it. ID of what? Self. ID of self, I will write it. One more object you create. One more object I am creating. E2 is equal to execute it. So you are getting one object, another object. So if I create a two objects, two times constructor is calling. Two times constructor is calling. So I'm going to make it one thing conclusion. This is a default constructor and you are already understanding. Now I want to initialize my data. Self dot self. Self contains what here? Modulu, come on. Self dot ename is equal to rosum. What is this data called? Instance data members. Already I mentioned in the classroom. Types of data members, already mentioned it. It is getting completing now. Programmatically, instance data members can be specified in three places: through an object, through instance method, inside the constructor. Today I am mentioning inside the constructor. So self.env, self.ename, both of them are available. I initialized it. Now here I am printing print of e1 dot underscore underscore dict. Print of I am writing. Try to execute and see the answer now. It is getting initialized automatically. Earlier kind of output is what? You see, it is a non-empty, it is an empty beginning. Later, it is explicitly placed by calling the method explicitly. But in the case of that, whenever an object is created, makes the PVM to call constructor. So how can I know that which constructor it is? It is not taking any parameter here. No arguments are taken. Here only self is taken. By seeing that you can intimate it is the default constructor. By seeing this object creation also I can conclude that it is the default constructor is getting called. What is the data present in that? Number and name. So I can print this data something like this. Here if you want, I can print this data here itself. Print of employee number. So backslash t, emp number, self.envo I am writing. Next I am writing print of what I am writing? EMP name. So I wrote something like this. Print of something like this. I'm just writing it. Try to execute. Now I got an output here. I am from default constructor. Number and name is getting printed. One more type of object I am creating. E2 is equal to employee of I am going to write it. Employee of I am going to write it. Try to run again. Same. Object creation makes the PVM to call the default constructor. Since I defined it, it is getting executed. What data getting printed? Same data getting printed. Next, one more object I am creating. One more object I am creating. E3 is equal to E3 is equal to same constructor is calling. So this is the default constructor is getting called. How many times? Three times. Three objects are created. Three times constructor is calling. So constructor will be called every time whenever an object is created whose purpose is to initialize the object. Initializing the object is nothing but placing our own data without placing the object empty. That is the purpose of what? Constructors. Next, ఏం బాబు మొద్దులు ఆర్ యూ ఫాలోయింగ్? మీరు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయకుండా వస్తే ఏం అర్థం కాదు. ఊప్స్ ఈజ్ వెరీ కాంప్లికేటెడ్. ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ టు ఎనీబడి ఊప్స్ ఈజ్ వెరీ కాంప్లికేటెడ్. ఐఎమ్ ఓన్లీ టీచింగ్ దీస్ మెనీ డేస్ అబౌట్ ఊప్స్ మల్టిపుల్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్. ఇఫ్ యూ డోంట్ ప్రాక్టీస్ అండ్ కమ్, ఏమి రాదు మీకు. బికాస్ the people who are coming to oops level, they are almost out of order. Without practicing, people are coming. So employee, this is called 2.py. Earlier case, it is containing the same data. Same output is coming here. Now I want to place different data here. Different type of values I want to place. Here 100. Now I am writing rs. Now here I am writing 200. See the per arguments where I am passing. tr 300. There I am writing something like dr. These are something like an arguments. In our case of functions, already we learned these are arguments. These arguments will go to the constructor. What is this now? E1 is going to be there in self. These two are also coming as the arguments. There I need to take one parameter. Here also I need to take one more parameter. So along with the self, I need to write emp no. Next emp name. EMP number and ename are called what? EMP number and ename are called what? Positional parameters. Good. Positional parameters. And this constructor is called what? Parameter is constructor. Along with the self, we are taking other parameters also. We call it as a parameterized constructor. So I am going to define, I am from parameterized constructor. There I am writing self.envo is equal to empno, which is coming from main program. Here I am writing emp name. I am writing emp name. Employee number printing, employee name printing. It is a parameterized constructor. You observe it. Object creation makes the PVM to call which constructor? Parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. It is also called parameterized constructor. So coming to the point back, so I'm going to write it. So parameterized constructor. Here also I'm writing parameterized constructor. So try to run this. Why parameterized constructor is used for? To place the different values to my objects. Run this code. First one 100 and RS. Second one is like this. Third one is like this. It is something like whenever you go for an account opening, the first account customer details are initialized with separate data. Second customer account data initialized separately. Third account holder opening data separately. So this is known as what concept? Initialization. So here two activities are there in our case. One is called whenever an object is going to come, definitely there exists a class. Class require what? Object creation. Class require an object creation. For the object, what we need to place? Place the data. Place the data in the object. We call it as what? Initialization. After that, perform operations. Perform operations on data. So perform operations on data. Who will initialize the object data? Who will initialize the object data? Constructors. Modulu, come on. Who will initialize? Constructors. Who will perform operations? Methods. Methods. So inside the class, what we are writing? Two activities we are writing. One, we are defining constructor for initializing the data. Next, we will define the methods also. That methods will do what? Operations on the data. So operations on the data first, placing the data first, placing the data first. To place the data first, we need to go for a constructor. Later to do the operations on the data, we will go for what? Methods. So these are the two activities we are going to do it. One is called initializing the data. One more is called performing the operation. That's why when you go to the class, we are going to define methods we will write, constructors we will write it. I hope you are understanding what is the use of constructor. Constructors are used for which purpose? To initialize the object. Methods are used for which purpose? To perform the operations on it. Whenever you open an account, you are going to place your data then and there immediately. We call it as a object initialization. Next day, what are you doing? Withdraw operation you are doing, deposit operation you are doing, balance inquiry you are doing. What is these are called? What these are all called? Mudulu. These are called operations. Placing the data in the account is known as what? Initialization we can call. So initializing the account is done by what? Constructor. Depositing withdraw balance inquiry is done by what? Methods. So that's why in account class what is required? Account class what is required? Mudulu, come on, Japan, stand up. Another less Nilsson. So class can contain what? Palakanda, Madhuvavulu, Palakand. Class can contain what? Methods plus constructors. What for constructors are? To initialize the object. What for methods are? To perform the operations. What for data members are? To store the data. To store the data. Who will store the data to initialize? Constructors. Constructors. Who will perform the operations on the data? Methods. What is the use of destructor? That we will see separately. I hope that you are understanding significance of what? Constructors, I think so. So now I am going to enter into this place here. Online students, Soumya. Are you following ma Soumya? Only Soumya. Okay, ma, good. Others cannot hear me because they doesn't have the proper listening power today's class. Okay, only Xiaomi I will speak today. Rest of them are not having proper listening part. Listening situation is not there for them. Now I will go to next part is going to be called as object initialization done by constructor. Object operations performed by what? Methods. Next I am going to enter into properties of constructor. Properties. Properties of constructor. Important question of properties of constructors. So there I am going to write it. Number one property is number two, number three, number four, and number five. Number one, the name of the constructor. Name of the constructor. What is the name of the constructor? Name of the constructor is ఎందుకని మొద్దులు మీరంతా ఏం చేస్తారు మీరంతా ఆ? మీరంతా ఏం చేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నారు అసలు సెల్ఫ్ సంథింగ్ లైక్ దిస్ విల్ రైట్ ఇట్ నేమ్ ఆఫ్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ ఆల్రెడీ యూ హావ్ సీన్ ద కోడ్ దిస్ ఇస్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ ఆల్రెడీ ఐ హావ్ సీన్ ఐ షోన్ యూ ద ఫస్ట్ కోడ్ మీరు అసలు అంత షార్ప్ లేకుండా మీరు ఎట్లా బతుకుతారు అసలు హౌ కెన్ యూ సర్వైవ్ ఆల్రెడీ షోన్ యూ దిస్ ఇస్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ ఆల్రెడీ షోన్ యూ దిస్ ఇస్ ద మెథడ్ వాట్ ద నేమ్ ఆఫ్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ అండర్ స్కోర్ ఇనిట్ దిస్ ఇస్ ఆల్సో అండర్ స్కోర్ ఇనిట్ ఆ షార్ప్నెస్ లేకుండా ఎట్లా ఎట్లా సర్వైవ్ అవుతారు మీరు ద నేమ్ ఆఫ్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ ఈస్ సంథింగ్ లైక్ దిస్ దిస్ ఇస్ ద నేమ్ ఆఫ్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ సెకండ్ వన్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ constructor called by constructor called by pvm during when object creation implicitly. Are you calling explicitly or implicitly calling? Implicitly calling. That point I wrote it. Object creation time pvm call default constructor implicitly. Object will call here what parameterized constructor implicitly. Both of them are calling explicitly and then implicitly. This is called a default constructor. This is called parameterized constructor calling implicitly. So constructor called by pvm during object creation implicitly for initializing the object. Initializing the object. So everybody will ask in interview point of view, why do you write constructors in a class to initialize the object without leaving object empty? For that purpose, we use the constructors. Third one, we will use the constructor. The constructor, very, very important point. Constructor can't return any value. Can't return any value except except none. Except none. So here I am going to write it. This is my constructor of parameterized. This is a constructor of default. Whether it is a default or a parameterized, whatever it is. Suppose if I write it, return of something like 100, you will get error. Who can return the value? Method can return the value, but constructor cannot return the value. Why? Because it is meant for just to initialize the data only. It is not meant for returning the value. You will get error. Type error will be coming. So see that type error, this constructor should return only none, not what value? Into value. Cannot return any value except none, I wrote it. 100.0 can't return float, you will get it. Can't return float. Now I will write it. Here I am writing something like true. I am writing true. That is also can be getting. Can't return bool. Can return what only? None only. So last and final I will write it. So 10, 20, 30. It cannot return anything. It can return only none. Can't return list. It should return only none. So I'm writing here return of what? None. So no error will come, no output will come. Output is coming. So it indicates that writing return none, is there any use? There is no use. Writing none is nothing but as good as not to write anything. Constructor can't return any value except none. Constructor can't return any value except none. No value can be returned except none. And writing none is of no meaning. So there is no meaning of writing written none. That's why people will ask you the difference between method and constructor. Constructor can't return any value except none. Method may return the value, may not return the value because the calculation can be done inside the method. And constructor can't return anything because it is meant for what? Just placing the data in the object. It is meant for initializing the object only. It cannot meant for doing any calculation. That's why constructor can't return any value. That are seen in this today class about the three things. Number one, what you have seen practically? Name of the constructor. Number two, constructor called by PVM when object creation. Implicitly, that you have seen. Number two, constructor can't return any value except none. That also you have seen. And the third property is in Python programming, not in Java programming. మీకు మొత్తం హాఫ్ నాలెడ్జ్ తెలిసి ఉంటుంది. హాఫ్ నాలెడ్జ్ కూడా కాదు, కొంత తెలిసి తెలియక. సో లైక్ బ్లైండ్ రూల్స్. సో ఇన్ పైథాన్ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్, constructor constructor here I am writing constructor can participate in can participates in inheritance. In Java, constructor cannot participate in inheritance. That's why I'm writing in that beginning sentence. In Python programming, constructor can participate in inheritance. Even in Java also constructor is available, but constructor concept is same, but the syntaxes are completely different. In Python programming, constructor can participate in which process? Inheritance process. But in Java programming, constructor cannot participate in inheritance process. One more thing, this I will show you. Very soon I will go to the inheritance. That time I will show you practically. These 3 points you have observed today, but this point you did not observe. You hold on. When I come to inheritance, very soon in the OOPS features, I will show you. In Python programming, constructors can be overridden. Constructors can be overridden. Constructors can be overridden. Constructors can be overridden. Overridden means what? In in Java programming, in your colleges, some chatta concept they said. They said half knowledge more dangerous. Even in nowadays, some institute peoples are saying without having any knowledge, failed candidates, Python overloaded. This is here we are having method overloading, method overridden. Two concepts are available. And if you look at those people, college people who are saying totally they are making misguiding the students. And when they come to Python, the same chatta is coming to these institutes and saying that Python overloading, overriding, they are trying to say. Here, overloading is not there in Python. Overloading is not there in Python. Overloading means what? Method name is same. Signature is different in a concept. Signature means what? Number of parameters, type of parameters, order of parameters. That is going to be the concept of overloading. In Python, they are trying to say overloading is also there. Very recently, in Saturday class, one student of our class student, he went to one data science class very recently, and they said, see, that it seems overloading, overridden concept came. That's why I'm saying Chata. Don't try to learn data science or artificial intelligence in Hyderabad. And of course, మీరు అంత స్టేజ్కి కూడా వెళ్ళారులేంటి. ఎందుకంటే మీరు చదువుకుంటే కదా ఫస్ట్ 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It is printing. Next is called 40. It is going to be only 40. And it is going to be 30. 30. Next it is going to be 20. Next it is going to be 10, like this. So this indicates that 5 values, 4 values, 3 values, 2 values, 1 value is printed. They are saying that print function is a overloaded function, they are saying. Print function is a overloaded, they are saying. That is a Java concept they are trying to bring to Python. It's a blunder, they are saying. So what it is taking internally, which parameter is taking? గుర్తుందా మీకు అసలు? మీరు కూడా అంతే, ఆ ఫ్యాకల్టీ ఫ్రెండ్సే మీరు ఫ్యాకల్టీ అయితే కూడా ఇట్లే చెప్తారు. సో విచ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఐ సెట్? So Soumya, other student is also saying, but they did not respond. No, that's why I'm not responding to them. So Newton's third law I'm applying. So one day I said you variable length arguments concept, variable length arguments concept. So star parameter. I said to you define function name, function name of what? Star param అనే కాన్సెప్ట్ చెప్పాను. Star params with positional, star params with default, star params with variable length, star param with keyword variable length. These are all concepts we explained it. If we go to the place here in this case, 11 a.m., 11 a.m., if you go to functions there, here variable length argument concept అనే ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ చెప్పాను మీకు. So if we go to the place, here I wrote it. Here I wrote it. List of formal parameters, star param. The star param concept I already said. Because of star param concept, it is a great advantage concept. That's why in Python it is eliminated. People who are showing, even in the classroom, I already said to you, examples if I go to this place, variable length arguments concept, I shown you here. This program will not execute, I said to you, if you remember. This one, display 5 values, 4 values, 3 values, 2 values, 1 value. This program will not execute as it is because the PVM performs interpretation process. How I was sorted it out. I was sorted it out by using two, define it and calling, define it and calling. Definer call it, definer call it, definer call it, define call it, and define call it. So that was the process. How I was did more perfectly, define it and call it, define and call it will take more time. So that's why I went to this concept I said to you in the last class. Star KVR. What is this now? 5 values, 4 values, 3 values, 2 values, everything stored in where? Single parameter. That single parameter is called what? Tuple. Similarly, when you come to this, the people who are seeing, person who is seeing, yesterday, of course, the student what is understood, Saturday evening he came and said me this process. That's why I'm saying Cheta. So help of what? Print off. Help of a print off. In the print off, you see what is this print taking? What is this? Star arcs. What are the star arcs? It is a variable length. So that student wondered and said immediately, of course, whoever is going for entering into the data science level, almost who is having direct full command over the subject, then only they can understand. And he said, the moment he said, he understood that he is a Munna by MBBS Chatta. So finally, he understood where function overloading when he is saying means I used to say that Python never supports function overloading because there is an interpretation based programming language. Compiler based programming language only supports. Java is a compiler based programming language, but Python never supports. Overriding is there. Constructor can be overridden. So I'm not confusing you. Of course, if you read well, in Java, method overloading will be there, overriding also will be there. I'm not talking about the Java. In Python, method overloading only will be there. Overloading only will be there. Overloading is not there. Overriding only is available. Overloading is not there. Why it is not there? Because there is a variable length parameter concept is available. That is the main reason of it. Overloading is not there. And he said that student said to him, you open the after the class is over, he said, this is a concept is wrong. What you said overloading is wrong because the print is taking star arcs. That star arcs will be taking variable length. It is not overloading, they say. They don't know Python, but they are teaching data science. In Hyderabad, rocket science also they will teach. అందరూ కాలేజ్ నుంచి తెచ్చారు కాలేజ్ నుంచి కాలేజ్ చెత్త దానికి ఈ చెత్త యాడ్ అవుతే ఇట్ విల్ బికమ్ అనదర్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ థింగ్స్ జంక్ సో And this is, and Daniki told we for that, if the students are coming without reading, what will happen? The faculty will go on saying something, and finally the people will become problematic. So, చదువుకునేటటువంటినే నేర్చుకోండి కోర్సెస్. అదర్వైజ్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు రీడ్ దెన్ ఓన్లీ యూ జాయిన్ కోర్సెస్. ఇఫ్ యూ డోంట్ వాంట్ టు రీడ్, డోంట్ జాయిన్, డోంట్ వేస్ట్ యువర్ మనీ. So finally, I'm going to say constructors can participate in inheritance. Constructors can be overridden. In which language? Python. In Java, constructors cannot participate in inheritance. In Java, constructors cannot be overridden. So, not to worry about the Java. నేను ఎందుకు జావా గురించి చెప్తున్నానంటే బై థింకింగ్ దట్ ఎనీబడి నోస్ జావా. తెలుసా జావా గురించి? డూ యూ నో ఎనీథింగ్ అబౌట్ జావా? యూ నో, యూ డోంట్ నో? ఇంకా పోయింది, పీడ పోయింది. I thought that you know Java. Then only the difference will. If you don't know anything, safe, very safe. If I know Tamil and Telugu, in Tamil we call it like this, Telugu we can call it as like this. I am differentiating. If you don't know Tamil at all, safe, right? So these are the properties of what? Constructor. Online students, Soumya, are you okay, mom? Only Soumya. ఎందుకు నవ్వుతున్నారు మీరంతా? మీరంతా ఏదో పెద్ద. Soumya, are you okay, mom? Right, very good student. Now I will move to the further. Properties of constructor is completed. Now, how many types of constructors are there? Two types. One is called default constructor. One more is called parameterized constructor. This is called which constructor? Default constructor. This is known as what? Parameterized constructor. What is the use of default constructor? And how do you define the default constructor? A default constructor is one which is taking self as a parameter, and it will initialize. What is the purpose of it? Default constructor which takes self as a parameter. What is its purpose? To initialize multiple objects of which class? Same class. With what values? Same values. That time I will go for which constructor? Default constructor. Default constructor. You go to the next parameterized constructor. A parameterized constructor is one which takes self as a parameter. Along with that, it takes what? Parameters also. So a parameterized constructor is one which takes self as a parameter. Along with that, some extra parameters also will be taken. That is known as what? Parameterized. What is the use of it? To initialize the multiple objects of the same class with which values? Same values or different values? Different values or same values? Different values. To initialize the multiple objects of the same class with different values. That's why I'll go for which constructor? Parameterized constructor. So the conclusion is very simple. Constructor purpose is to initialize the object. What type of initialization? Same values initialization in multiple objects of same class done by default constructor. Same type of objects, same class type object initialized with multiple values of different type. I will go for what? Parameterized constructor. So overall together I am going to have the conclusion. Two objects types are there. Same values initialization, different values initialization. Who will initialize same values initialization? Default constructor. Who will initialize multiple values of different type? Parameterized constructor. So I will go to the small explanation now. One more example I want to go for it. Let me go for one more example. Follow it all of you. I'm going to give you default constructor. Default constructor. Example1.py. Default constructor example1.py. So here I am going to write it. Program for, of course, I already written it. One more time I am going to ask you. Demonstrates default constructor. Default constructor. Okay. There I am going to write it. Go to this place. I am going to write main program. I want to create an object of one class called test. What is this is called? Object creation. Object creation. Object creation basically makes the PVM to call what? Object creation immediately makes the PVM to call what? Mudu. Mudu. Object creation makes the PVM to call what? Constructor. Either parameterized constructor or default constructor. Either parameterized constructor or default constructor. By seeing this statement, what you can understand which constructor it is? Default constructor. How can I know it is a default constructor? Not taking any parameter. So I will define class. I'm going to write it. Class. What is the class name? Test. There I am writing def underscore underscore init underscore underscore of self underscore underscore of self. There I am writing print of I am from default constructor. Default constructor. Okay. I want to place this one and another object I want to create. T2, T2 I want to create, T3 I want to create, T3 I want to create. So I want to go for placing the value called 1020. 1020 I want to go for creating. I want to place it object called what? 1020 I want to create. 1020. What should I do inside of it? What he will write it? Madhubagula. Self dot A is equal to 10. Self dot B is equal to 20. These are the values I am printing. Print of backslash t. Value of A is equal to self dot A. Self dot A. Self dot B is equal to what? Self dot B is equal to self dot B here. Self dot A is equal to self dot B is equal to. So I'm writing something like this. So first object created, initialized with what values? 1020. Second object created, initialized with the same. Third object created, initialized with the same values. So how can you execute this now? Execute. Now you are going to get it. T1 object contains the same data. T2 object also contains the same data. T3 object also contains the same data. So finally all the objects contains which data? Same data is going to be present. So finally I'm going to conclude my sentences. I'm going to conclude my sentences. These objects are going to be created, initialized with which constructor? Default constructor. Next, I'm going to take a parameterized constructor. I'm going to take it. Parameterized constructor, I will take it. Soumya, I think you are following me. So next, parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Example 1.py. Parameterized constructor example 1.py. So there I'm going to write it. This one you take it. Parameterized constructor, I'm going to take it. In this case, what is the functionality of parameterized constructor? Already you understood. Second example I am giving parameterized constructor. In this case, I will take it the same kind of object methods I will take. Main program I will take. Try to observe it. Here I decided to go for which object creation, students? Which object creation I am going for? Come on. I will go to 1020. Next I'll go to 100 comma 200. Next I'll go to 300 comma 400 or 1000 comma 2000. This is the values I'm going to introduce. Then tell me, by seeing this statement, we can understand that which constructor we are taking? Parameterized constructor. Is the constructor you are calling or automatically calling? Hmm? Are we calling or PVM is calling? During what time? Object creation time. So here I am writing class. What is the name of the class? Test. I need to define what? Def underscore underscore init underscore underscore of self comma a comma b a comma b. By seeing that, I can easily understand that it is called which constructor? Parameterized constructor. I am from, which constructor? Parameterized constructor. Okay. This is written here. Now I'm going to write it. Self dot A is equal to self dot A is equal to A. Next, self dot B is equal to B. Now I want to print the data. Print backslash T, value of A is equal to comma A. Next I am writing print of what? Self dot B is equal to B, and I am going to take up something like this. Done. So now I want to run my code. Run my code. How many constructors I am defining here? Only one. How many objects I created? Three. Which same values installation, different values. Run the code. Now I'm going to get it. First values, second value, third value. Different. It is called which constructor? Parameter. This is called which constructor? Default constructor. Soumya. Understand, ma? Is it clear for you people, Soumya? So, right. I hope others also may be cleared. I think so. Because they are not responding. Na, that's why I'm not asking them. Because they are all great people, not responding. CMs, PMs, all IAS, IPS officers, they are present in my class. That's why they are not talking. So next I will go to one more kind of thing we will go. Next example I'm going to take up. So next example is another one is the concept will be coming. Sir, can I write both the constructors in the same class? I'm going to take up one important point I'm talking. So let us go to default, default parameterized, parameterized constructor example dot py. Here I'm going to get it. Here I'm going to get it. So this program demonstrate, this program demonstrates, demonstrates both default and parameterized, default and parameterized, parameterized constructor. I'm going to talk about it. Carefully try to follow. Both parameterized and default constructors I'm going to discuss. Okay. So students, now I'm going to write it class test. Class test I'm going to write it. So I'm going to write this pass. So here my requirement is very simple. I want to create an object test with, this is called what creation? Object creation makes the PVM to call default constructor. Default constructor. Okay. Once a default constructor is available, what will happen? It will go to the class called this one. I need to define def underscore underscore init underscore underscore of self. I wrote it. So what is this constructor is doing? I am from default constructor. A small message I am giving. So self dot A is equal to 1. Self dot B is equal to 2. So value of A printed, value of B printed. That ends the matter. That ends the matter. Okay. That is nice. Executed. No issues. Everything is completed. Now the next point is immediately one more object I want to create a T2 with a value called 100 and 200 students. What is this is called? Hmm? Object creation makes the PVM to call parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. P2 is equal to test of 100 comma 200 object creation makes the PVM to call parameterized constructor. It will go to which class? Test class. Looking for parameterized constructor. Is this line number 14 satisfied with the line number 4? No. Why? Because it is missing two arguments. It is missing two arguments. Which error will come? Which error will come? చూడండి మీకు ఇంతవరకు కూడా తెలియదు మీరంతా వేస్ట్ క్యాండిడేట్స్ టైప్ ఎర్రర్ when the arguments are mismatching it will give you what type error so many times I said in the functions time onwards I'm saying type error so takes one positional argument called self but you have given how many three what are the three t3 t2 object 100 and then this one you did not give you have given three but only one is available that will give you what a type error then how do you sort it out this issue how do you sort it out this issue quickly how do you sort it out this issue so మీకు అంత సీన్ లేదు కానీ you will say some student will say sir write a comma b write a comma b we will write what that time it is the parameterized constructor parameterized constructor now there I am writing a there I am writing b which is the parameterized constructor for this line number 14 I am defining parameterized constructor what about the line number 13 when I define line number 14 equivalent constructor I am getting the 13th one problem when I am defining the 13th one default constructor 14th one getting problem how do you satisfy both of them what should I do define default constructor define default constructor so I am defining default constructor also define default constructor also now I am going to define so I am from which constructor default constructor 1 and next is called 2 next is called 2 and see what is happening now this is called constructor this is called constructor here only one parameter self here self along with the two parameters will it execute or not come on what will be the answer now default constructor value is called what 1 and 2 parameter is the constructor is what 100 and 200 correct now this program will not execute at all this program will not execute at all everybody will think that this is correct but this will not execute if you already read my notes variable length arguments concept if you read my notes already variable length arguments concept a program malla open chestan I'll open once again to you people so there it is a variable length arguments example 1 there I was written already once you are remembering that concept today you will answer that because you are Shankar Dada MBBS you are not remembering you see display of 5 arguments 4 arguments 3 arguments 2 arguments 1 argument on the same name this program will not execute at all why sir because you know PVM performs interpretation process it remembers latest function definition only latest function definition only it remembers similar manner it is an init is a method special method it remembers which method definition latest method definition only it will remember it cannot remember what previous ones in this case which one will not execute 20th line 21st line is there which line will not execute 20 or 21 20th line will not execute. Why? It is expecting default, but this default is here, parameterized is here, latest one will be considered parameterized. So this is going to this place. It is not matching. Which error? Type error will be coming. Type error is missing two required positional arguments. That means you are passing only T1. T1 is holding self. It is missing two arguments. That's why this is an error. Then how do you satisfy this? Soumya, I think Ma, you are following me. So Soumya, you are following. This is an error. This That means this concept makes you to understand defining both the constructors at a time is not possible because the PVM cannot remember both of them because it is doing which process? Interpretation process is doing. So how do you fix this issue? How do you fix this issue? So I cannot write which constructor? Default constructor, I cannot write it. How do you fix this issue then? I have to make my program to execute compulsory at any cost. How do you fix this issue? మనకు అంత సీన్ లేదు కానీ ఐ విల్ టెల్ యూ. I will go to default constructor default parameters concept. A is equal to 1 and next B is equal to 2, I will write it. So which one I am not writing here? Default I am not writing. Default parameter, default constructor, what it decides to place 1 and 2. That 1 and 2 placed in where? A, B. Now execute. See this now. When this object getting created, it will come to this place only. What is the T1 contains? Self. A and B already initialized with what? AB. 1, 2. This is called which concept in our functions? I said default, default muddu, default arguments concept. So one word if you say it is a useless answer. Default arguments concept. Default arguments concept. So A is equal to A. This is satisfying both the default as well as what? Parameterized constructor. Self dot A, self dot B, self dot A, self dot B is saying that T1 is equal to test of, T2 is equal to test of A comma B and execute that. Now see the answer now. When this is coming, 1 and 2 getting initialized, T2 is equal to test of 100 comma 200. Now see that. Now I am going to get it. 1 and 2 and next is called what? 100 and 200. Are you able to follow this? So with this kind of single constructor, I am reaching the default constructor functionality. I am reaching the parameterized constructor functionality also. So I think the question is coming in interview point of view. Can I define both the default and parameterized constructors inside the class? Can I define? No. Yes, sir. Can I define both of them? చూశారు కదా మీరు. ఎస్ నో మీరు అంతా ఒక్కటే హాస్టల్లో ఉంటారా? విల్ యూ సే ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఇన్ సింగిల్ హాస్టల్? మళ్ళీ ఎందుకు అంత మొత్తం పుడుకున్నారు అంత ఒకసారి వితౌట్ సేయింగ్ ఎనీథింగ్? కెన్ ఐ డిఫైన్ బోత్ ద కన్స్ట్రక్టర్స్ ఎట్ ఏ టైమ్? No, but we can define it a single constructor with what values? Default arguments concept. I can fix this issue. One more constructor I will define. Soumya, I think Ma, you got my point. Now I will go to T3 is equal to test of. I am going to write it 1000. I am going to write it 1000. This is called what? No parameters at all. Here I am passing two arguments. Now I am passing single argument. I am passing object creation makes the PVM to call parameterized constructor only. What is happening? 1000 will go to A and B will contain 2 only. Execute it. It is containing 1000. B will contain 2. Suppose now I want to create one more object. I want to go for passing the value 100, passing the value 1000. To whom I want to pass? B I want to pass. How do you do now? How I will do now? Hmm? Hmm? What is that? What is that? Keyword? Keyword length argument. Keyword length argument. ఏదో నోటికి వచ్చింది చెప్పడమే. B is equal to we need to write. It is called keyword length argument కాదు. Keyword arguments it is called. ఎప్పుడో వినింటాం. Some days back ఇక్కడ ఉంది. It is saying that keyword length argument, keyword argument length. So our terminology also don't know. So B is equal to 1000. So I'm using keyword arguments. This is keyword variable length argument is separate. This is a keyword arguments we can call. So passing the data for B. So I will run this code, and this is A is 1, B is 200. Now I can say last and final. I can say here, now I'm going to write it. One more kind of thing. Go to the another object. Now I want to say, here I'm going to write 5. I'm going to write one more kind of value here, some 300 and 400. 400 want to pass to A, 400 want to pass to this A, and 300 want to pass to B. I can write here keyword arguments concept. I can use it. In any of the order, I can pass it. So try to run this now. So I'm using 400 and 300. Whichever data you want to pass it, I can pass the data perfectly like this. I hope that the main importance of this entire concept concludes that the main important thing of this entire conclusion says that whatever the data you are going to pass it, in the same way we are going to pass it and initializing the data. That indicates in a class of constructor, in a class, one can define only one constructor. It is not possible to define more than one constructor. If at all you want to define more than one constructor, I can issue that part with the concept of what? With the concept of what? Default arguments concept, we can do it. I think it is more clear for you. Next, I can pass that since Soumya is only asking, others did not answer, but some unknown person is asking one doubt. I'm not calling that person name. 7 is equal to, I'm passing this value as a KVR. I'm passing this value as a KVR. I'm not spelling out that person name. I will go for writing like this. And everybody must read my notes. Then only you will get the subject of it. Then only you will get the subject of it. You are getting Python is what? Dynamically typed programming language. Any value can be taken. This I said in the LKG level only. This I said in the LKG level only, it can be done. Python is what? Dynamically typed programming language. Any value it can be taken. So I hope that other than Soumya student, I think understand. So I mentioned it, and whoever asked, they need to understand that I'm not spelling it out that person names, because only Soumya name I can spell out, because when I asked about it, whoever responds, I will talk to them only. So Newton's third law I will apply. Otherwise, problem. So Soumya, it is clear, ma. When I ask Soumya, it is applicable for other people also. Clear, ma, Soumya? Now I will move to the further. Clear or not clear? Miru, Muddu. Right. Yes, sir. Mean pere Muddu. Nickname adanta. So I will go to the further. Now I will show you concept of constructors for you. Concept of constructors. Morning one student is coming, I said. He is the head of the department in one college. He came today with a new proposal here. He is coming and saying with a happy mood. He went to some temple also, made everything clean and green, and came to today. We came with one proposal. Sir, in my college, I am taking Python, sir. Python. Today onwards he is taking, it seems. So I'm I'm going to teach very well, sir, he said. Okay, nice, all the best, I said. So later he said, uh, I'm reading your notes, sir. I'm reading your notes. I will dictate as it is, sir. He's saying. Dictate it. Earlier you used to dictate something. Now I said, no, sir. I realized, sir. I spoiled them so many years, sir. 2020 onwards, I'm teaching Python, sir. Out of one entire semester, 4 months or some number of months will continue or not. I'm not at all teaching anything, sir. After seeing that, I realized that I destroyed them, sir. I destroyed their future, sir. Because they don't say anything, sir. College marks will be there. That's why today onwards, I decided to teach something new, sir. His name is Nagendra Kumar. He's saying, today onwards, a new Nagendra Kumar will be seen, sir. I will explain, sir. Bless me, sir, he said. Nothing to bless my side. Once you read my notes, it is indirectly blessing in all the times. If you don't read, obviously, nobody can bless it. So my job is to give you the good knowledge. Whether you will respond or not, I will give. If you don't respond, what can I do? What can I do? I have to, boys, I have to take the stick and I have to beat. That's not correct in the 2025 world. It was there when we were the students. When the days are going on, modernization, we should not say anything to anybody. Correct, Agada? So, అందుకని you understand and move forward. So, to realize that candidate, after how many to realize? And you start C language, C++, so many things he taught. And he's saying that today I realized that, and of course, he realized it already 1 month back. He spoiled so many people's things. That is it's a good college, it seems. College good ante college number of acres land, that is not correct. How much good content is coming, that is an important. అంతే కదా 200 acres college is there, good college. What you will do with that? At least 200 laptops must be there in the college. So anyhow, is it clear? So I'll go to a concept I will show. I'll show the concept here. So I'm going to open it. Constructors. There I'll open constructors in the program. Now start reading. All of you. Start reading, all of you. The purpose of constructors in Python is that to initialize the object. Initializing the object is nothing but placing our own data in object without leaving object empty. Without leaving object empty, placing our own data is called initialize the object. Definition of what? Constructor. What is that? A constructor is one of the special method. Why special method? Whose name must be written always like this. Whose name must be written always like this. That's why it is a special method, which is automatically or implicitly called by PVM during object creation, and whose purpose is to initialize the object without leaving the object empty. Without leaving the object empty. Next, syntax for defining constructor. So, def underscore underscore init underscore underscore of self list of formal params if any block of statements performs initialization already done. And the rules for what? Constructor. First one, name of the constructor is this one. Next, constructor will be called by PVM automatically or implicitly during object creation. That is a very, very important. When constructors will be called, when constructors will be called during object creation. It is one of the fill in the blank. Of course, that fill in the blank is nothing but a college fill in the blank. What is the option? After object creation, before object creation, during the object creation. Third, when the program starts. What is your answer? English రాదు మనకు. During object creation, before object creation, after object creation, when program starts. మనకు English రాదు. What is that? During object creation. If I am a student, if I am an interviewer, I will ask you, what happens when object created? I will ask. What happens when object created? Tell me, what object when object created? Whenever an object is created, two things will take place. Number one, memory space will be created. Number two, that memory space initialized with the value by the constructor. That can be either a default constructor or parameterized constructor. Like that you have to answer. When you answer, people has to appreciate. When you answer, people will appreciate. Different means it is very danger. Yesterday, my sister, and my sister means I'm only one, only alone. I'm only one. No sister, no brother. My father, brother, daughter means my sister only, cousin. His son, sister and son came to my home. And I used to play with those guys. And they will fear me whenever they look at. Most of the time, my relatives who are studying this BTech, etc., all those things, they will fear a lot, first of all. మామూలు ఫియర్ కాదు. When they look at me, ఎక్కడెక్కడో ఉంటారు పోయి. They will be there in all rooms, outside, everything. And no noise will be there. Whenever I go to any function, these people, the close relatives and all, no noise. Keeping, keeping quiet like anything. Even mobile also, they will give their fathers and mothers. By coming to backside, they will give. So he is the candidate. Don't know anything. Just enjoying, going to college, enjoying, not studying. Second year is studying. Don't know what is the definition of data structure also. Python also don't know anything. So for him, how to make that guy to he passed with a 6.5 CGPA, 6.5. 6.5 is nothing but what? Visiting in ordinary bus, red bus. ఎర్ర బస్సులో పోతున్నాడు వాడు. At least 9.5, 9.8, 9.9, 10/10 CGPA is there. At least you are eligible to enter into the AC bus. 6.5, 6.2, what they will do? What they are reading? Well, intermediate, 985 out of 1000. And once a BTech joined, how mindset changing you cannot. So that is what is going on. So try to come to the point. Why I am telling all these things? Things outside is so drastically changing that you don't go to that. Read well, I am trying to say. This entire morality is that only. So coming to this place, next up, constructors will not return any value except none. It returns the value. Can it return the value? No. Why it can't return the value? Because it is just initializing the object, not returning any value. That is known as it returns none, but it can't return any value because it is initializing the object, not doing any calculation. But a method can return the value. You know that. In Python, constructors can participate in inheritance process. In Python, constructors can be overridden. This is not the case in which language? Java language. If I teach Java, I can say constructors cannot be inherited in Python, I will say. In Java, constructors cannot be overridden, I can say. Can be overloaded, but cannot be overridden. So Java, you don't know, na? So leave that part and try to remember. These 2 points I will show you when I come to my explanation, because already anyhow you are having constructor overriding, method overriding concept is there. There you will come across this mechanism once again. In the inheritance process, 4 and 5 I will show. Right? Next I will go to types of constructors I will show. Types of constructors. You look at the types of constructors here. Two types of constructors are available. Default constructor or parameterless constructor. Parameterized constructor, two types. Default constructor. First definition I am going to say. What is the definition here? A default or parameterless constructor is one which never takes any formal parameters except self. Only self will take. The purpose of default or parameterless constructor is that to initialize multiple objects of same class with what values? Same values. To initialize multiple objects of same class with the same values. DEF underscore underscore init of self. Block of statements initialization process. Here, test class, default constructor, only self, initializing the object at 1020. Three objects are created with what values in three objects? Same values. Coming to parameterized constructor also. What is the parameterized constructor? Always takes what? Parameters after self. Now, purpose is what? To initialize multiple objects of same class with which values? Different values. Ikkada initializing the multiple objects of same class with same values. Compulsory question this is. Right? This is the syntax. Self on the list of formal parameters. Even in the program also is shown you. DEF, init, self, KV, and placing our own AB with KB values. This is a parameterized constructor. And values are available here. And one important point I wrote it. Most important point. In a class of Python, we can't define both default and parameterized constructors because PVM can remember only, come on, latest constructor due to its interpretation process. That means it remember only the latest one only, not remembering the previous constructor. This already said in the method level also. So to fulfill the need of both the default and the parameter constructors, we define single constructor with the default parameter mechanism. Already default parameter mechanism we applied or not? What is the use of default parameter mechanism? Just tell me. What is the use? Default argument mechanism explained or not? Explain చేసానా లేదా? ఇట్లా ఊరికే చూసే explained or not explained? Explained. What is the use? Tell me. What is the use? To initialize the same thing means same value. Why? Why do you initialize same value? Why do you initialize same value? Why do you initialize same value? That is the most important. You have to tell whenever we have a family of similar function call where we are passing a common value for all the similar function call, that time the common value must be specified as a default value, not recommended to pass as a positional argument. Python, don't pass that many times. Pass how many times? One time. So, చూడండి నేను చెప్పి టైర్డ్ అయిపోయాను నేను అన్ని ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశాను నేను ఐ వాజ్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ దట్ మెనీ నంబర్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్స్ గో టు ద ఫంక్షన్స్ దేర్ డిఫాల్ట్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 1 ఇక్కడ పారామీటరైజ్ పొజిషనల్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ కాన్సెప్ట్ 2 చూపిస్తాను so that will be the input for entering Python. For similar function call, passing the common value takes lot of time to pass Python. To avoid this problem, to avoid this concept, we went for what? Default arguments. Here, default arguments example 1. Default arguments example 1. Positional parameters, CRS is equal to Python. For the family of similar function call, when we want to pass the common value, then that common value must be taken as a default parameter. Knowledge you need to have. But once if I say in my notes, you have to follow. If you don't read, what can I do, students? Only I can shout on you, that's all. Other than that, I can't do anything. So, parameterized and then default constructor. Here, init, self, k is equal to v is equal to 1. Default and parameterized concept, I am going to use it. AB values and then parameterized constructor is done. This is about why this is the most important point. What the question is coming? Can we define both default and parameterized constructor in the same class? Not possible. It gives what error? Type error. Because it gives preference for latest constructor only. It cannot consider the previous constructor. That time object creation becomes problem. To avoid that, what we will do? Whatever the previous constructors are doing, those values you take it as a default values in the constructor definition. That will fix that issue. Next, there is one more thing I want to show you. Difference between function and constructor. That is also I want to show you here. So I'm going to show you now. Oops features here. Now I'm going to take constructors here. Now I'm going to take it. Difference between methods and the constructors I'm going to give you. So read out methods and constructor. The purpose of methods is that to perform an operation and provides code reusability. The purpose of constructors in Python is that to initialize the object. Ikkada performing the operation, code reusability. Here to initialize the object. Opening an account in the bank is what operation? Constructor. Next day depositing, next day withdraw, next day balance inquiry is called what? Methods. Understand? Right. Next is what? Method definition must be called explicitly through method call. You need to define and you need to call explicitly. Here, constructors will be called by PVM automatically or implicitly during object creation. Here, next, method definition may or may not contain return statement. That means a method can return a value. If at all a method decides to return a value, it can use what? Return int value, float value, any value it can return. But the constructor should not return any value, should not return any value, should not return any value, except should not return any value. It can return only none, but not other values. Very important. The method name can be any valid variable name. Any name you can take it, get student, EMP student, etc. But constructor name is always what? Underscore underscore init like this. Self and then what? List of formal parameters if any. List of formal parameters if any. And then we can write the block. These are the differences between methods and constructors. I hope that inside the syntax of a class, we can define the data members, you can define the methods, you can define the constructors. Moreover, constructors are meant for what? Initializing which data members? Instance data members. Obviously, it is an implicit meaning also. Constructors are meant for initializing object. Object contains which data members? Instance data members. So constructors are meant for initializing instance data members, but not. Why not class level data members? Because it is a common value. Common value will be specified how many times? Only once. No need to initialize again and again. So you remember it. I'm going to take it. Whenever you open an account number to be initialized, name to be initialized, balance must be initialized, PIN can be initialized, address can be initialized, Aadhaar card can be initialized, PAN card can be initialized. But B name cannot be initialized. B name is what? Class level data member it is. Are you getting my point? So try to understand what to initialize, what to define only once. So instance data members only initialized by which concept? Constructors concept. I hope that you are understanding today about constructors concept. So what we learned so far inside the class name, class level data members, instance data members, class level methods, and the next what we learned today. Come on, constructors concept we learned. In tomorrow's class, I will talk about what? Destructor concept I will explain. Destructor concept. See, almost 4 or 5 days over of this class concept started. Still we are inside the concept is completed. Now we will go tomorrow class what? Destructor I will explain. Garbage collector concept I will explain. Have you executed previous class programs? Hmm? Executed. Who executed? Raise your hands. Honestly, I'm asking. If you don't practice, అంటే మీరు చెయ్యి రైజ్ చేసిన నాకు తెలిసిపోతుంది మీ ఫేస్ రీడింగ్స్. హూ ఎగ్జిక్యూటెడ్? ఓన్లీ 4 or 5 members, 8 members ఎగ్జిక్యూటెడ్. రైట్, అదర్స్ మీరు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేయకండి. మీరు ఇంకా ఉండాలి ఇక్కడ అమీర్పేటలో ఉండాలి, మీరు కావాలి, యు రిక్వైర్. సో డోంట్ ప్రాక్టీస్. సో because hostel owners will be getting more benefit when you still there in the Amirpet for long time in hostels as a senior citizen. So I will stop my class. Tomorrow class I'll go for what? Garbage collector I will go for it. And don't miss the tomorrow class. I will post these constructors for you. Try to practice well. Online students, if you have any doubts, you hold on. Thank you. Carry on.